Newcastle, Tottenham, and Man United, Liverpool.
They're two really good games. That's why they're on the Super Sunday kickoffs, because Newcastle Spurs. I'm looking forward to that one. Yeah, that's going to be. Oh, it's so early on in the season, so you don't know. But as long as, as long as most of the players stay injury free, because Newcastle always seem to get injuries. They had another one in the League Cup, and they've not brought any players in. But if their first 11 is their full strength, and I think they can beat Spurs. They've had a good recent record at home against Tottenham. I remember a few years ago they scored something like 4 goals in the first 15, 20 minutes. Just hoping for that again. And then it's Man United, Liverpool. Yeah, what a game.
We are back with Jack. Jack, how are you?
I'm good, thank you, Nicos. Yeah, thanks for having me back.
Which was the match that really excited you last weekend? Apart from the Newcastle one.
Yeah, apart from that one. That was exciting because that had an exciting finish. I'm sorry to say, but it did excite me, the finale of the Brighton match, the Brighton Man United game, because it was this end-to-end open game with high tempo.
Yes.
It was.
You like the naivety of our defence?
Naivety, the drama of the disallowed goal, Man United.
I was unlucky.
It was unlucky. It was just, I was watching it. I was in Limassol. I was watching it in a hotel, and I was just seeing it. So I couldn't believe the drama of it. But what about you? What game did you, apart from that one, stood out for you?
I think it's too early. As we discussed last week, the teams will start finding their rhythm and their form in September, middle of September onwards, in my opinion. But being the Premier League, what I'm not surprised is that we only have 4 teams that they won both their matches, since the beginning of the season, which is not unusual.
Yeah, I mean, it's no surprises there. I mean, all the top teams are where you think they might be towards the end of the season. But yeah, I mean,
I could say that I didn't expect Chelsea to win 6-2.
Well, that was the surprise.
Away.
That was the surprise.
Wolves as well.
Yeah. To see that, we were saying about Chelsea, all these different players, but they put it together in the second half in that game, didn't they? And ran away with it in the second half. Madueke got a hat-trick. Probably helped him get the England squad.
And also, okay, Everton looks like they will be struggling. I don't know.
I think.
Is it too early to say?
I was reading about this the other day after the weekend, and it looks like it might be more of the same for Everton. I think even their manager, Dyche, said it's going to be another struggle. He was trying to keep level-headed, but you could see he was just frustrated. They've had these financial penalties. They've had these points deductions. They've had, all these things going on behind the scenes, and the recruitment's been an issue. And they've got players who they might need to shift, or else they're going to lose them next season. Like Calvert-Lewin, the main striker, he could go on a free if they don't shift him, or do they give him a new deal? There's all these problems where there's not been any planning. We talked last week about Man United and their poor planning. Everton on the playing side haven't planned it too good either, let alone with all the other stuff that's going on. 2 games and they're -7 goal difference, and they've not scored a goal. And they had moments. They looked quite good against Brighton in the first game of the season, in the first half of that game, and then it all went wrong. And then when I saw the result, when I was checking the scores on Saturday, they were lost 4-0 to Spurs. And we know Spurs tend to start the season well. They did last season anyway under Ange Postecoglou, but it just doesn't look good when you're only 2 games in, and it's just you're already so far in the goal difference, let alone anything else. So we'll see what happens with them. It could all change. It's still early. They could go on a run. They could bring in another player, but it doesn't look good for them. So we'll see. Going back to the other games, well, I said about the Newcastle game because, again, it was a bit like the Man United game in terms of the drama, because there was pretty much the last minute was the disallowed goal from Bournemouth. It was one of those VAR decisions where it hit his sort of top of his arm, but you couldn't really tell whether it was the shoulder or the arm, and where does it reach the arm, the rules. It was one of those. It was one of those tricky ones, and they gave it as a they disallowed it as by VAR as a handball goal. So I was sort of like, because I was watching that one as well.
But this year, from what I understand, in the Premier League, there will be a more relaxed regarding the handball.
Yes.
The way they interpret what is a handball and what is not. It will be in a natural position, clearly in a natural position.
Yeah, clearly a natural. This is the thing. It really frustrates me with this handball rule because for a few years it was so silly.
Yeah, but Jack, let's say this ball from 3 meters, okay, comes towards you. How can you avoid, with such a force? How can you avoid if you have an open arm? How can you avoid it?
Yeah, for balance and when you're jumping as well. I see it a lot when they're jumping for the ball. Naturally trying to propel themselves and it hits their arm.
No,
they give penalties.
We have seen, which is really ridiculous, all the defenders having their hands behind their back, and I say, what is this? Come on, this is like, it's not a ballet. I mean, come on.
Yeah, because I think it was when the ball was coming in for that Brighton goal, and they had Martinez with his hands behind his back, like he was, like he was a naughty schoolboy, and the ball was coming in, and he wasn't even really looking at the ball. He was just so focused on trying not to give away the penalty for handball. They're not defending properly,
We have all sorts of problems with the VAR, how they interpret this and that and the other. And in Cyprus last week, we were discussing all the time about the goal line technology, why you don't introduce it, why this, why that. Okay, so we have all this in England. They have their watches as well. So we try to minimize the errors. But at the end of the time, they stop the flow of the match.
Yeah, it does.
Okay.
And it stops.
And one thing that I don't like, I'm all for all for it. Technology-wise, in sports, But at the same time, a team scores a goal, and then you wait. The player starts celebrating, and then they wait. Okay, and then it's just these marches, and then they disallow the goal, and it's just an anticlimax.
Yeah, it is.
They need to find a middle ground so that it continues to be entertaining football. At the same time, we correct all these errors, in my opinion.
Yeah, because it does lead to sort of farcical scenes, especially in the ground when people don't know. Like when you go to the Man United games, you'll be sat there in the stadium just wondering what's going on. No communication. No.
They disallowed the Man United goal against Brighton.
Yeah, I wonder if that would have stood without VAR.
Exactly. Okay. But I think even I was watching the Alec McCoy was commentating. He was the only one that saw what happened. His co-commentator was didn't understand why in the beginning why it was disallowed, and then when they played the replays, he was just praising McCoy because he saw what happened, and nobody understood why. When we were watching live, I couldn't understand why it was disallowed. Why they stopped it.
Yeah, there was a lot of confusion.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Imagine you were at the match. You probably had to call somebody, a friend, who was watching it on TV to understand why it was disallowed. Yeah,
and you're not getting the full experience, whereas somebody sat at home or in the pub or something, they get to see all these angles. Yeah. I don't know.
Because when you are in most of the grounds, what they see is that VAR on the board, and then they get the message, checking or whatever. Okay, and then it's disallowed, and then you're just wondering why.
Yeah, you do sort of wonder. So you had that decision, and then unfortunately for you lost the momentum, and then Brighton. They got a bit more. They got it back again, and then they got the winner, didn't they? And it was a
final word about this is the American football. At least they have these mics, and they explain to the supporters why this decision was taken. Okay, this is otherwise is in my opinion is not good for football. They need to find the FIFA, UEFA, I don't know who is going to decide. They need to find a way so that we don't have all these stops during matches, and people understand when you are in, it's supposed to be, football is supposed to be an entertainment event. Okay, and they need to find a way to solve these problems.
Yeah, because just one more thing on that. I remember when it first came in, and I went to games abroad. I went to AC Milan game, and I went to a Cologne game in the Bundesliga and the Serie A, and there was two decisions in those games, and one of them was two players came together, and one of them they just came together, and one of them got sent off, but we didn't know why. And then we saw him back on the pitch again. It had been reversed, and nobody communicated in the stadium that why is this player still on the pitch, even though he was given a red card. It was shown to be the other player, and the other player got sent off instead. And then one of the other games there was a last minute penalty, and nobody knew what had happened, because originally it went out for a goal kick, and then it was ready to take the goal kick, and then stop for 5 minutes, then it was a penalty. So you go away from the game really confused, and you don't feel like you're invested in what's going on, and it can really take away that enjoyment from it.
And in Cyprus you have another problem, is that they use the TV production cameras. So it's not like you have 10, 12 cameras that are fixed. They are installed in each ground, and the VAR studio, they get the angles from these cameras. They use the production cameras. So if you don't have, you have old stadiums where the cameras are not in line with the offside, with the so it's a big issue.
I just hope it doesn't play a big part of the season, because I remember last couple of seasons, you've just been talking, all the talk after the game has been either about the referee or about the VAR or the VAR assistants in the room, in that Stockley Park headquarters. It's just, you don't want to be talking about that. You want to talk about what a goal that was by whoever, what a save, what a penalty. Exactly. But anyway, you're talking about the technology instead.
Exactly. Anyway, hopefully they will find a solution. Man City, easy win 4-1 against Ipswich.
Yeah, newly promoted team, but they took the lead, Ipswich. That was a surprise to many, but Haaland hat-trick. Okay. Another hat-trick.
I watched both Man City. It's a new system they play, and but still they look like they would be favourites for the Premier League.
Yeah, I mean, we both sort of predicted Arsenal, but they're going to be up there, but Man City strong again.
Yeah, but Arsenal away to Aston Villa. Aston Villa were really strong last year, so it was a big win for them.
Big win. I saw there was a few big missed chances though. Watkins especially, 2 unbelievable misses. I was surprised to see that. But Arsenal, yeah, they produced a couple of moments that mattered, and they were clinical, and that they looked like a team that was right at the top of the table, So they I don't know whether I think they probably did deserve it, but it just shows you that they've got that resolve to go away at Villa and win, because Villa beat them at Arsenal and pretty much gave the title to Man City after that, because Arsenal just couldn't keep up with Man City. So that's a bit of it's good for the Arsenal fans, because they got one over back on Villa after last season.
And we have in the next weekend, just before the international break, we have Arsenal Brighton, Brentford Southampton, Everton Bournemouth, Ipswich Fulham, Leicester Aston Villa, local derby.
Yeah, that's a good one, that one.
Nottingham Forest Wolves, and West Ham Man City, and on the 1st of September, Chelsea Palace, Newcastle Tottenham, and Man United Liverpool.
They're 2 really good games. That's why they're on the Super Sunday kickoffs, because Newcastle Spurs. I'm looking forward to that one. Yeah, that's going to be. Oh, it's so early on in the season, so you don't know. But as long as most of the players stay injury free, because Newcastle always seem to get injuries. They had another one in the League Cup, and they've not brought any players in. But if their first 11 is their full strength, and I think they can beat Spurs. They've had a good recent record at home against Tottenham. I remember a few years ago they scored something like 4 goals in the first 15, 20 minutes. Just hoping for that again. And then it's Man United, Liverpool. Yeah, what a game so early on. Big test for the new Liverpool manager. And as you probably were talking about before in your other podcast with about Ten Hag, big game for Ten Hag. First of the season where I know you had the Community Shield, but the first league game of the season where you're playing real tough opposition.
And not only that, after the loss against Brighton, the pressure is on. It's too early, but the pressure is on.
Yeah, it's not sitting there with 2 wins, all comfortable. And he's never comfortable. I don't think he's ever been in a position where it's been, I'm okay. I've got a few games here. I've won a few. They have their spells, but he's always seems to be 1 game away from a lot of abuse, and people are saying they need to get rid of him and things like that. So it might be a bad. There'll be some booing for sure if they lose that game. If your team lose to Liverpool at Old Trafford, there will be some booing. So. What are your predictions for it? Are you hopeful, or is it too early to tell, or what do you think?
In my opinion, it is too early to tell. But and also the lead hasn't started the match yet, and it looks like today they will announce Ugarte, which will be a big plus in the middle of the park. They say.
They say. I haven't seen an awful lot of him, but I think he's a solid player. I think he played against Newcastle last year in the Champions League. I recall for PSG, but they obviously see something in him, and he might be that person, that final piece in the midfield to sort of glue it all together. Because also McTominay's left, hasn't he? He's gone to Napoli, so he's sort of a replacement.
But I think for the first time in quite a long time, the last few years, they did a solid. They had a solid transfer window with the players going out. And players coming in key positions.
Yeah, I think so. I think particularly Mazraoui, you said he was impressive, very impressive, and De Ligt is a good player, and he was a leader. He was the captain.
Yeah, but also they needed a really good midfielder. Even though Casemiro in the first 2 matches he was solid, you need somebody because you have Menu, but he's still too young to play 60 matches, in my opinion. You don't want to burn him out in the first couple of seasons. But left back, still, I expected they were going to bring somebody in because Malacia is out. Dalot is playing there, but it's not his position. Luke Shaw, we expected all summer for him to come back. He played a couple of matches with England, and then he's out.
Yeah, he just breaks down. I think I've seen Man United being linked with Ben Chilwell from Chelsea. He's one of the players who Chelsea are trying to shift.
But I'm
not sure if that will go through or anything.
It looks like Sancho wants to go to Chelsea instead of Juventus, and Chelsea, they want to get rid of Sterling. So
there might be a deal to be done there.
It might be a deal. We are at the end of the window, and that would be the end of the summer discussion. It's the favorite pastime of the supporters up and down the country.
Yeah, exactly. It's been quite a quiet transfer window. There hasn't been, like I said last week, and it hasn't changed really. There hasn't been major big deals in terms of money coming in to the Premier League or between Premier League clubs. I know Newcastle were linked with Matt Gay, but that's sort of gone on.
Now, I think with the as we discussed it last week, with the new these financial sustainability rules, it looks like all the clubs, they need to really plan well in advance how they will spend their money. Because it's not easy. As probably before there were some loopholes, and now they are trying to the teams is basically your ability to spend whatever money you are making. If you don't make enough money, then you have all these rules, the percentages is not an easy rule to understand for the layman. Let's put it this way.
It's tricky because if the Premier League was, or even just the top tier of English football was just invented this season or last season, whenever the rules came in, then everybody would be on a level playing field because they'll have to play by the similar rules. But unfortunately, you've got Man City and Man United, Liverpool. They've got all these mega revenues. They've had the pre-PSR period where they've signed players, they've sold players, they've injected money, and they've got massive sponsorship deals. They've got all this. So, but they've already got that. They can't hand that back retrospectively. They've already got that basis. So Man City built their dream squad for the last 10 years and won a lot of
but
Premier
the thing
League
is, Man United, for instance, they overspent on transfers, and now they need to get rid of some players to bring in some cash in order to
true.
To spend it, and that's why in total, I think it will come about if let's say they sell Sancho around 30 million, they will bring about 129 million euros plus the add-ons. But this is for this current window, the 130 million euros, which is for the past few years, this is something that we haven't seen from Man United.
Yeah, Man United have gone from a position of strength when they were on a par with Man City, even in terms of the players that they had on the pitch, and it's just gone downhill every single season. It's just been a continual decline every season, and then to the point where they're not even attracting the top.
Jack, the decline was because they overspent 1 point something billion without the return. So they spend a lot of money on overpriced players.
Who didn't perform, and they had no resale value either. So.
On the other hand, we have these 115 charges against Man City.
Yeah, and that's also very annoying.
And even Guardiola, he went publicly and said that finally we have a decision on this, so that we can move on. I think they announced the date when they will decide about these charges.
So we're still waiting for that date, for the final decisions to be made on all of them. Let's see what happens with that. But I think, so what I was trying to say is, with all this money that they had to start with, whether they spent it well or whether they didn't, they also had that basis. I think it's meant to even up the whole league and things like that. But I think there's a lot of clubs that are going to struggle, especially the teams that come up, the likes of Ipswich. They're not backed by, billionaires. You need to be either backed by a billionaire or a state to be competitive. But saying that, even Newcastle are backed by pretty much a state, and they can't do anything because of the PSR. But they didn't have the basis before the PSR came in, like a Man City did. The foundation's just to plough all the money in, hundreds of millions on players, a top player every season to make that squad, like a dream team like they've had. So I think it'd be difficult for the teams coming up any season to compete on a level anywhere near these clubs, because they're not going to be able to even get the Man United players, the knockoffs from Man United. That's how much of a divide there is.
This is another factor that is affecting football. We discussed about VAR, and the last few years we'll be discussing about the budgets and the financial aspect of things. I was telling you the other day about the Welcome to Wrexham documentary, and now they're in League One. And I was reading that if they manage to get promoted to the Championship, they will need new investors to come in. These two Hollywood celebrities, they injected some money, but in order to survive in the Championship, you will need. And if you watch the documentary, they have this American mentality. We think big, and in some of the episodes, they were discussing about reaching the Premiership. So you need to plan well in ahead on the financial side, and then bring in the football people to organize the football side of things. So it's not an easy thing to run a football club. It was never easy to run a football club. And now we have these additional elements that are affecting what we see on the pitch.
Yeah, because you can have it like a Tottenham situation where they're one of the best run clubs in the country. They're in terms of behind the scenes, they've got one of the world's best stadiums, this fantastic stadium, and they've got it all right off the pitch. They've got income streams coming from when they have NFL matches there. They have all sorts of different things going on.
Yeah, but still,
and it's on the pitch that they get judged.
Yeah, but exactly. But still, when they announced the final cost of the football ground, 1 billion, they say, "Wow." I mean, how can you build a modern stadium? This is a huge amount of money. And now we're discussing about 2.5 billion for Man United. And you're wondering, how is this going to affect what you see on the pitch? Because, okay, you are a global brand name, you are huge by football standards, but at the end of the day, there are limitations even for these top clubs.
Even for the super elite. I think on the stadium thing, Man United have to catch up because they've seen Man City have renovated their stadium, made it bigger. Yeah. They've got better facilities. They've got a whole park there, their infrastructure, their whole city group area. They've got the female stadium. They've got everything there, training ground, all integrated. You've got who else have you got? You've got Real Madrid and Barcelona renovating their stadiums. Multi-billion euro projects, and then you had Spurs with that stadium that we mentioned, which is now old money, because if they did it now it would be double or triple the price because everything's gone up, the price of everything. Now Man United are in a bad situation because they're stuck with a big stadium, traditional, lots of history, means a lot to the fans, but it's a leaking roof, it's got problems, it needs, there's no leg room in the seats. They need to catch up.
Yeah, but even Emirates now, some people they say it's not a modern.
Well, it's coming up for 20 years old now. Yeah, so that's and also Stamford Bridge is another.
Stamford Bridge. We knew that Abramovich was trying to build a new Stamford Bridge, but I don't know the ins and outs with the local.
It was tricky because of the location as well. A very expensive location, and you couldn't. I think there were some problems with the buildings around it. There just wasn't the space to expand to make it into like a super dome stadium that we get these days, these big arenas, with lots of space behind, with cafes, with bars, with everything, included. They didn't have the space.
But even for Spurs, it's a daily, it's a day out for the football fans.
It runs all the time, even on non-match days.
Because you can go in the morning, and then you have a bowling alley. I'm not sure. I haven't been to the stadium.
I'm not sure about, but they've got all these different facilities. I really want to go to it, even as not a Spurs fan, because it's just I heard of people told me when they've been. It's just incredible.
Yeah. So you can spend your morning there, and then watch the match, and then go and eat, and then go home late at night. I don't know.
And not even see a football match. That's the crazy thing.
And this is the idea now for the the clubs that are thinking of building a stadium. Is not a stadium. It's like a whole complex. Okay. I mean, even the president of Monia here in Cyprus, they call it the Project Green City. There will be different, it's like a small business center, medical, training ground, a football ground, shops.
It's like full integration of everything.
So that on a weekly basis, people can visit the complex, and you have something to do there. It's not just going to a football match and then even Jim Ratcliffe, he mentioned it, that now, and I know it because when I visit Old Trafford, basically you have nothing to do there.
Apart from the club store, and you sit in your seat and get a pie. There's not a lot else.
You wait until they open the gates to get in there, because there's nothing. I mean, if you don't go early in the morning, the 3-4 pubs that are very in close proximity of Old Trafford, they're packed. You have to queue just to get a pint for hours. So what's the point?
Yeah, so you're just going there for the match,
Yeah.
and you're going home again.
Yeah.
Basically, that's what it is, or back to your hotel. Yeah, it's just
So
they need to catch
that's
up.
why you see a lot of fans that day in the city center, and they just take the tram, a couple of hours before the match to go to Old Trafford. So it's not an experience as such, like because you need to, we move on with the times, and the clubs need to move on with the times. But it's an expensive project, let's put it this way. So we mentioned the Everton ground, which I think is going to open next year.
Yeah, it's still on track, I think.
Yeah, it looks pretty impressive.
Impressive, and it's on the docks, isn't it? Just on the Mersey, so it's a unique sort of design as well. And
hopefully they will not go down.
Yeah, because the jokes are it will be the best stadium in the Championship. Well, it will be for sure. But I think it looks impressive. They found a site and stuff. That's the thing. They've moved from Goodison. It's got so much history. I went for a stadium tour there a couple of years ago, and just everything was so tight, and I'm quite tall, and it was just sort of diving underneath and not hitting my head on things, and the tiny dressing rooms and the big beams. The bars you can't see the pitch. It's just it had a lot of history and a lot of character to it. But they probably did need to move on because, like we just said, the commercial aspect of it. But it'll be a disaster, absolute disaster for them to go down. And actually, it's possibly the worst timing in their history to open a new stadium, because they're struggling on the pitch like they've never done before. I know every season it's been a struggle, but I seriously think they've got a big problem this season. If they go down, they've got that stadium. It's absolutely awful timing.
The thing is, if let's say the new stadium was ready for this season, usually what happens is that when clubs move to a new stadium, it's a transitional period. So with the struggles that they have, imagine what it will happen.
Yeah, because we saw that when West Ham first moved away from Upton Park, because they had that Olympic stadium.
Tottenham when they were playing at Wembley.
Yeah, they had the transitional at Wembley season. Yeah.
It was a big struggle for them. The first year was, so it was a big problem for them.
Yeah, because they've not got their own they've got their own fans, but it's not their own ground. It feels like a neutral stadium for them. They're never going to make it at home, and you just can't. I don't know. You just can't feel like you got that connection. It's your stadium, you own it. It's your land. It's your history and all that sort of thing. When it's starting from fresh, like when Arsenal first moved to the Emirates, it's like a big bowl. It just doesn't feel, it's quite soulless. I know they used to say Highbury, the library and stuff like that, but when they went to, at least it had that history when they went to the Emirates. Obviously, they've more like made it a home since then, but they've not won the league title since they've moved to the Emirates. They've never won the league since then. So, and that's been 18 years since they've been in the Emirates. And that's going to be, I'm really looking forward to see how Everton get on, because I'm going to be paying close attention to that, because it's going to be the biggest running joke, I think, about them having that stadium in the second division. Let's see, they might surprise us all, and they've got a good manager. He does the best with not much budget, and he gets them fighting and stuff. But is that enough to keep staying up on the last few games of the season to the final day? I'm not sure. There will be a time when they eventually do go down, a bit like what happened to Newcastle. What happened to Sunderland years ago, they were always towards the bottom. What happened to Aston Villa, they eventually went down at one point. All these teams have been down, big clubs, and Everton have been avoided it. So
they won the Champions League. What was it called? European before the Champions League.
The European Cup.
European Cup. It was and anyway, it's a big club in Midlands.
Aston Villa, big club, and we're expecting them to have a good season. But they're obviously, like we said, they're in the Champions League, so it might be a struggle for them to manage all those extra games. But one thing I did see funny about the Everton, I saw a video. It was some construction workers were building the stadium, and they were testing the tannoy system. and one of them got his phone and played the Champions League anthem, so it was running out through the stadium. I don't know if they were a Liverpool fan or they were just Everton's for a joke, you know, doing it, Toffees fans, but that did make me laugh, because I think that seems a long way away for anybody out, even let alone Everton, any club outside the top 8 teams. It's a long way away from the Champions League now.
They need to pass this difficult period, and then the stadium will give them a different impetus to really make them, you know, strong team like they used to be back in the day.
Yeah, another famous team won the league in the 80s and FA Cups and all sorts. A bit like Villa, they've got a strong heritage, top division heritage.
Unfortunately, the first FA Cup final that I went to, the old Wembley, was Man United Everton, and we lost that match. So it only reminded.
I remember. I don't remember it, but I've seen the highlights of it. Yeah.
But I went the next year. It was against Liverpool. It was a terrible match, and we won. Remember this? It was a Beckham corner. James came out and punched the ball, and Cantona found, I don't know what he saw, but he passed through a couple of players, and he just we won the cup.
That was a great goal. Yeah, what a player he was. But
the match was not.
Actually, you're talking of stadiums. Well, just on it, you said about the old Wembley. I was lucky enough to go to the first competitive game at the new Wembley, which was England under-21 against Italy under-21. And that, I think it was a 3-3 draw. It was a crazy game, but that was the first time the game had been, the stadium had been tested out in a proper game. And I remember thinking, like, I was talking to my dad, and they were saying about, you know, the old Wembley, how it was such a great atmosphere. It didn't feel like an amazing atmosphere because it felt like a big bowl, but I think Wembley sort of developed a bit more now. It's people obviously used to it. It's been quite a long time since it's been open. But at first, again, with the new stadium, it's just getting used to it, isn't it? Making it home. And that would have been the same for England, let alone all these clubs that we're talking about.
I think you English people, you are very stuck with the tradition and the history.
Yes, we are. And it has a lot of meaning, a lot of feeling, you know, because it's passed down from generations. But maybe not so much in Cyprus about the connection to the stadium, I don't know. But in England,
not just the connection with the stadium. I'm talking about, for instance, I remember when BT got rid of these old red phone boxes.
Even just silly things like that. Yeah, we do like the traditions. We do like it.
Can you imagine London without these double-decker buses?
No, they still have. Yeah, crazily enough, they still have the more modern versions. But yeah. But I think people do like reminiscing. They do like the heritage. They do like going to. I mean, I don't, because I don't eat meat. But people go to the stadium. They have their pies. You know, they have their Bovril drink. You know, they love it. That's the way it always has been for them. You know.
And I'm not against tradition and be sentimental, but as far as this, sports facilities, you have to move on with times. You cannot stay in the past.
Because there's no progress otherwise.
I mean, the old Wembley was an iconic, not just for the football matches, because I've been to a lot of football matches back in the day, but because of the music events, Live Aid.
Yeah, classic events.
You were too young, probably. Were you born?
No.
I was watching it live.
You were watching it live. Unfortunately, I wasn't born. I'd love to have been there, though. That would have been amazing. But no. Things like that. Yeah, classic. Yeah. People like to reminisce. But yeah, here and now, we are where we are. I would like to see us go back a little in the sense of the technology and maybe just strip it back to things that actually matter.
Okay.
That's what I'd like to see.
Right. So we'll wait and see what's going to happen this weekend. And then we have the international break, and we'll come back and discuss more about how the season progresses. I keep mentioning that we will start discussing more in depth about the matches when the teams find their rhythm in the mid-September, second part of September onwards. because it's too early. And okay, now the transfer window ends, as we discussed before. So the teams will settle down. The players coming in, we get to know their the other players in the squad, okay, we usually see a lot of transfers coming in the last few days in the Premier League.
Yeah, there's a mad rush at the end, and they pay silly prices towards the end of the window.
Yeah, and all these new players, they need to acclimatize themselves with the Premier League. It's a completely different league compared to the other European ones. Much faster pace, 100 miles an hour. Some of the matches, and they're not used to it.
Exactly. I think what you just said, we will discuss more in detail as the season plays out a bit more, because it's still early days. They're still getting used to their systems. Some of the players are just really, these almost like early pre-season games, the first few games of the season. They're still getting their rhythm. They're still trying to connect with the new teammates. The new managers are trying to get their systems in place. Existing managers are trying to weave in new signings into their system, and also they're trying to suss out the opposition. Sometimes you get surprise results at the start of the season, first few matches, because some teams aren't figured out. So we're going to see that. We're going to look into it in a bit more detail as and when, and once the transfer window is closed, we'll be able to see where all the squads are at in terms of their strength, because it could so quickly change. As with Newcastle, it could bring a couple of signings in. There could be serious contenders for the top four, or if nothing happens and they lose players, or they don't have any success in the transfer window, it could really determine that season, the rest of the season. So exactly, we'll see how it plays out the next week and then into September as well. Okay,
so we'll have some ideas regarding this series of episodes, as we discussed off air. Hopefully we'll try to manage to have some guests as well that have or had a presence in the Premier League, that are now on the island, and trying to have some new things going forward to make it more interesting. So it's not that just one Man United and one Newcastle supporter discussing, the Premier League week in, week out. And when the time comes, we'll make the announcements, and let's leave it at that, and we'll see you in the next episode.
Thank you very much.